Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Ralph Babet.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Now I'm going to ask you all to be upstanding for the Australian National Anthem, sung by Nicole McMullen. And Nicole's husband, Rob, is on our Queensland Senate team and are both proud members of the Trumpet of Patriots. Ladies and gents, Nicole.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and well fertile. Our home is girt by sea, our land abounds in nature's gifts, our beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, and let us sing, advance
Thank you, Nicole. That was brilliant. The best song in the world. Amen. Ladies and gents, whether you are a long-time supporter of the United Australia Party or a new supporter of the Trumpet of Patriots, I welcome you here today with open arms. Today, we launch more than just a political campaign. You know what we do? We ignite a movement. A movement. A movement rooted in common sense, driven by the values that have made this country great, and powered by ordinary Australians who have had enough. Enough. Enough of the lies, the spin, and the failures of the political establishment. My name is Senator Ralph Babet, and I am proud to represent the great state of Victoria in the Australian Senate, and I'm proud to stand before you all today as a member of the United Australia Party. I was elected in 2022, and I will continue to serve with everything that I have until 2028. But I'm not here for titles. I'm not here for status. I'm here for one reason only: to serve you, the people of our great nation. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. My story is not extraordinary. My story is uniquely Australian. I came to this country as a migrant from Rodrigues Island off the east coast of Africa. My family had nothing but a dream that in Australia, if you worked hard, if you played fair, if you believed in yourself, you could achieve anything, and we did. We did, because this country made it possible. That is the Australia that I love, and that is the Australia that I am fighting for. But, ladies and gents, that Australia, the one that we all grew up with, the one that we all believed in, is under threat. It's under threat. It's being dismantled by globalist ideologues, power-hungry bureaucrats, and a political elite that has forgotten who they work for. They no longer listen to you. They no longer respect you. And they no longer serve you. They don't serve you. We are facing a crisis of leadership in our country. The two major parties, Labor and Liberal, they become indistinguishable. One drives a bus off the cliff and the other follows close behind. Neither is interested in standing up for everyday Australians. Neither is willing to challenge the creeping authoritarianism that now defines our politics. Now let's talk about our problems, because pretending that they do not exist is what got us into this mess in the first place. Our cost of living, it's spiralling out of control. Food prices are skyrocketing. Fuel prices are punishing families. Power bills have become a luxury. Young Australians are giving up on the dream of owning a home. Parents are working 2 and 3 jobs just to keep the darn lights on. Keep the lights on. What is the government's solution? Both sides. More tax, more regulation, more bureaucracy. We have a different solution. We believe in unleashing the economic potential of our great country. We believe in slashing the red and green tape that strangles small business. We believe in building dams, investing in manufacturing, and using our vast natural resources, coal, gas, and uranium, to power our country. Power our country with cheap, reliable energy. Thank you. Thank you. We will stop the reckless pursuit of net zero, which is destroying industries, sending our jobs overseas and leaving families cold in the dark. We say Australia first. We say let's use what we have to rebuild what we've lost. What we've lost. We believe in processing our minerals at home, in adding value right here, instead of shipping our vast wealth offshore. We believe if we dig it up here, it should benefit Australians first and foremost. Imagine the jobs we could create, the industries we could build, and the wealth we could retain right here on Australian soil. Right here. Now let's talk about freedom. Because without freedom, there is no Australia. In recent years, we saw something unthinkable in our nation. People were locked in their homes. Businesses were forcibly closed. Workers were told they couldn't earn a living unless they submitted to a government mandate. Families were separated. Protests were crushed. Dissent was silenced, all in the name of public health. Let me be clear. Never again will we allow unelected bureaucrats to dictate the terms of our lives. Never again will we let fear override freedom, which is why the United Australia Party is calling for a full royal commission into the COVID-19 response, because the people deserve answers. The people deserve justice. We are the only party committed to standing against digital ID, central bank digital currencies, and the surveillance state that is creeping into our everyday lives. We believe in cash. We believe in privacy. We believe in your right to live your life free from government interference, for goodness sakes. We are also the only party that understands the importance of protecting children. In classrooms across our great country, kids are being indoctrinated with radical gender theory. They are being confused. They are being sexualized. And they are being taught to hate their own country. You know what? We say enough. Let our kids be kids. Let teachers focus on reading, writing and arithmetic, not activism. Enough. Let parents raise their children without state interference, and let schools be safe places for learning, not laboratories for social engineering. Enough. We must also stand up for the family, because the family is the foundation of our nation. Without strong families, we don't have a strong country. We must support parents. We must honour marriage, and we must promote policies that strengthen, not weaken, the bonds that bind us. I believe in protecting life from conception to natural death. I oppose radical full-term abortion laws and dangerous euthanasia regimes that devalue human life. I believe that every life matters. Every life matters. And I will fight to protect the most vulnerable among us. Now, on national security, we say this: Australia must be strong. Strong. We are witnessing growing aggression from authoritarian regimes. We must invest in our defence, strengthen our alliances, and ensure that our critical infrastructure, our ports, our water, is never again sold off to foreign interests. Never again. We also say, bring Australian super home. Our pension funds should be invested in building Australian infrastructure, supporting Australian jobs and securing Australia's future, not lining the pockets of foreign corporations. No more. Let's talk about rural and regional Australia, the beating heart of our nation. It's not in the halls of Parliament in Canberra. It's not in the skyscrapers of the cities. It's in the small towns, the communities that keep our shelves stocked and keep our country moving. Yet, time and time again, these communities are neglected, overlooked and forgotten. So we propose zonal taxation policies that give tax relief to people who live outside major metro areas, because that's right, it's common sense, common sense. Because living regionally should be rewarded, shouldn't be penalised, for goodness sakes. We're proposing investing in water infrastructure, dams, pipelines, irrigation to secure the future of our agriculture and safeguard our food security. Basic, simple things, common sense. We believe our farmers should be empowered, not taxed for their livestock emissions. We must reject the war on farmers. You know, this push for climate extremism is hurting the very people who feed us. Instead of taxing cows for methane, let's support the industries that support our nation, that support us. Support us now. We must also safeguard our democratic values. Free speech is under attack. It's under attack. Big tech, they censor dissenting opinions. Legacy media, they work as an arm of the establishment. And the government talks about misinformation laws that would criminalise differing views. Well, here's a fact they can't censor. Democracy dies in silence, and we will not be silenced. All of us, we will speak the truth no matter how unpopular. We will ask the questions that the media won't ask. We will hold the powerful to account, and we will never apologise for defending the rights of everyday Australians. Never. Never. Now, we also need to address immigration and national identity. Of course, we support immigration, but it must be sustainable, it must be merit-based, and it must enhance the values that have built this nation. We cannot allow our immigration system to be used as a political tool to import voters or undermine Australian culture. We will always stand for integration, not segregation. We believe that migrants should come to our country not to change it, but to become a part of it, to contribute, to assimilate, and to join the great Australian story. Common sense. Common sense. This movement, it's about you. It's about your voice, your family, your future. We're not run by career politicians. We are small business owners, teachers, nurses, tradesmen, and parents and people who live in the real world, just like you. We understand what's at stake. We understand that the time to act is now, and we understand that if we don't rise together, we risk losing everything that makes our country worth loving. So I ask you this, what kind of country do you want to leave for your children and grandchildren? One where freedom is a memory, or one where it is the bedrock? One where people live in fear of speaking the truth, or one where the truth rings loud from every rooftop? One where the government grows and your freedom shrinks, or one where government is accountable, limited, and exists only to serve? I know the answer. I know the answer, and I know you do too. This is our movement, our responsibility, our call to action. So we'll stand together, strong, proud, and unafraid. Let's bring common sense back into the halls of Parliament. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's make Australia the land of opportunity once again. Let's remind the world what it means to be Australian. That's right. Because together, ladies and gentlemen, we will not only save Australia, we are going to make her shine brighter than ever before. We are rising. And with your help, we will win. We will win. All that is required is the courage to think and the boldness to speak. And we can see Australia and our people flourish once again. So, I thank you for supporting me and helping me to take that common sense to our nation's capital in the hope that we can turn our nation around before it's too late. Our country has many problems, but these problems were created by men and women, and as such, they can be solved by men and women. If we are courageous, if we are strong in the face of adversity, if we take a greater interest in the political process, our country and our people will benefit. The challenges that we face are many. We can do something about it. You are in fact doing something about it by being here today. You are doing something about it every time you use your voice. Remember, you are not alone. Together, we will make a difference. Together, we will stand up. Together, we will create change. Together, we will make a better tomorrow. And yes, together, we will save Australia. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Aussie! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gents. Thank you. Thank you. Now, ladies and gents, one more thing. I want to acknowledge a man whose vision and courage helped build this movement. One of Australia's most successful businessmen, Mr. Clive Palmer. He is the only billionaire in this country who has had the courage to take on the political establishment and use his own money to advocate for Australia. He's a man who refuses to be silenced, a businessman, a patriot, and a relentless fighter for Australian sovereignty. Now, Clive Palmer, he isn't just the chairman of the Trumpet of Patriots, he's also the chairman of the United Australia Party. And he's a force of nature in Australian politics. Yes, he is. As the owner of one of Australia's largest companies, he's built an empire from nothing A real rags to riches story. Along the way, he's created thousands of jobs and he's stood up to foreign interests who want to exploit our resources and undermine our great nation. But more than that, Clive Palmer has never been afraid to take on the establishment, the bureaucrats, the globalists, and the career politicians who are selling out our country. Whether it was his bold advocacy for nuclear power way back in 2019, his push to process Australian minerals onshore, his fight against inflation and the housing crisis, or his tireless stand against government overreach, Clive Palmer has proven time and time again that he puts our country first. It's because of leaders like him that we have this opportunity to stand together and fight for the future of our great nation. Ladies and gents, Clive Palmer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clive Palmer.
Your beauty takes my breath away. I love your golden beaches, your far out reaches. There I'll stay until my dying day. Australia, my homeland, I love you like an old friend. Sing it out to the world. Your wide open spaces, the people smiling faces, holy men and songbirds.
My fellow Australians, we meet today in a state known for its strength among people known for their courage. And we find our nation is in need of strength and courage for the challenges it faces. The Uniparty, the Labor Party and the Coalition have provided a blueprint for a disaster since the turn of the century. Yes. Labor and Liberals have policies which are 99% the same. It's dumb and dumber. It's Tweedledum and Tweedledee. It's B1 and B2. That's why the Trumpet of Patriots has placed every sitting Labor member last in every Labor-held seat. And every sitting Liberal member last in every Liberal-held seat. It's time for a new agenda for Canberra. Every time Albanese announces a policy, Dutton says, I'll match it. He never says, I don't agree with you, Mr. Albanese. He never says anything positive. He just wants to follow the leader. And we can't do that. Dutton has let it be known that if he's made Prime Minister, he'll keep Kevin Rudd as our ambassador in Washington. Kevin Rudd, who called the President of the United States a village idiot, and Albanese, who said that Donald Trump scares the shit out of him. Right? Now we find Chinese warships circling Australia while these guys argue over a 70 cents tax cut. At this time of national crisis, we must put Australia's defence relationship with the United States at the top of our agenda. The Uniparty has no solution to the 130,000 homeless in our country that are sleeping on the streets, or the 3.7 million households of Australians that are going hungry. Yet 200,000 visas were granted in February to invade our nation, and 10,000 more Australians were made homeless last month alone. Can you imagine it? Sitting in your car, getting up in the morning, trying to have a shave with your children in the back seat, getting ready for work. Can you imagine their hopes, their aspirations and their tragedy? We must try to change the political system in this country. Yes. And our leader, Suellen Wrightson, is working hard to set out the solutions for the disaster Australia faces. Not only does she and our team have the answers with our common sense policies, she's far better leader than Peter Dutton and Albanese. I'm sure you'll agree with me. You know, the Uniparty of Labor and Liberals has done all they can to stop me and like-minded people like me in this election. Firstly, the AEC said under their Act of Parliament, even though the United Australia Party had 82,000 members, was the largest party in this country in terms of membership, they had to sit out this election and we couldn't contest this election. I didn't like that. I knew that you wanted to be represented. I knew you wanted your voice to be heard. So I went to the High Court of Australia and in a judgment 2-5, they agreed with the AEC, but we know all the judges are appointed by the Uniparty and we know what they think about that. And the next day, after that judgment, I was called by the chairman of the Trumpet of Patriots and he said, we're ready to go. And I said, so are we, and we have been, right? And here we are today with Australia's best leaders, Suellen, Wrightson, and standing candidates in the House of Representatives and the Senate in all states, all done in 4 weeks. Now we have thousands of members fighting for Australia's future, and the people of this country have a choice. While this has been the most boring election in history, while the choices were very, very minimal, the public in Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, Queensland want a choice. That's what democracy is about. A chance for freedom of expression. And that's what we've given them. In every state of this country, they've seen our policies on television, they've seen them in the papers, they've seen them right across the board on social media, and they know what we stand for. You've got to remember that all polls show that there is 40% of the electorate undecided. The polls just allocate that 40% of voters over the rest, adopting the results of the previous election. But we know they would not be undecided if they were going to vote as they did at the last election. The Trumpet of Patriots did not stand at the last election, so the polls have no relevance to us. We want to win the election. You know, when Albanese was elected leader of the Labor Party, I was contacted by radio and they asked me what I thought of him. I was trying to be diplomatic. I said, well, I did not like to make personal comments on individuals. I did not know all that well that I met in Parliament. They asked me then, how did I judge Mr Albanese? I said I judged him by what people that knew him better than I did and longer than him said about him. And they said, in the case of Mr Albanese, who did you look to for judgment? And I said, his wife. And they said, what did she say? I said she divorced him. You know, she's not a bad judge of character, is she? Albanese said our power prices would come down by $287, but they've gone up by over $1,300 a year, with much, much, much more to come. No one in this country is better off now than they were 3 years ago when Labor was elected. The depressing fact is, as I said, policies of the Coalition and Labor are the same. So, without the Trumpet of Patriots, this election would be a farce. In this century, it's the fate of this generation in our society to live in a struggle they did not start, in a world they did not make, but the pressures of life are not always distributed by choice. Australian men and women have never faced such challenges. Likewise, there's never been such an opportunity for growth and expansion as there is in the world today. You know, I believe in democracy, said US President Woodrow Wilson, because it releases in every human being an amount of energy that is unmatched. And that's what we've got here today, I hope, a lot of energy. You know, the dynamic of democracy is a power and a purpose of an individual to seize the opportunities that exist. There has been around the globe to date, and we saw it recently in the United States, America, Europe and South America, a clash of ideas and wills. It's one of the basic forces that's shaping this century. Both the success and the setbacks of the past year remain the unfinished business of the international community. The apparent blessings contain seeds of danger. Every area of trouble gives out a ray of hope, and one unchallengeable certainty is that nothing is certain and nothing is unchallengeable. And we'll be challenging Albanese, we'll be challenging Peter Dutton for a better country. Here in Australia, we must seize the opportunities this election offers to save our country for all Australians. But most importantly, the Trumpet of Patriots have the solutions that will change the political landscape of the nation. Only the Trumpet of Patriots offers a real alternative. So far, the government has given $38 billion to foreign developers and manufacturers in the form of subsidy for renewable energy. They'll spend another $642 billion of taxpayers' money to try to get to net zero. The price increases for power you pay is an additional to all of that. They'll spend that $642 billion to keep you poor, to keep you in your cage and to tie you up so you can do nothing and you'll feel helpless and defenceless. The Treasurer has said he doesn't know how long it will be till the Australian budget can balance again. If we stay woke, we'll go broke. Like all of you and all our citizens in every state of this nation, I'm sick of being welcomed into my own country. I love this country. I'm an Australian, it's where I live. I'm not going anywhere else. I want a country to do well. I want my fellow citizens' lives to flourish. What I am is a regular Australian who decided that he would put his a hand up and have a go. But I need your help. Our party needs your help. There's no task too much. There's nothing I can ask you too great than to save your country. And when you go home tonight and put your head on your pillow, say a prayer for our nation and say a prayer for your fellow citizens who are living in cars and who are going hungry. And say, should I take the time to make sure on polling day that I can get 10 people to come along and help my local candidate? I'm not satisfied with 1 or 2 or 3. I want 10. I want to involve them, not in our party, but in our movement for freedom and a democracy. I love our country. I love our freedoms. I love that in Australia you can be anything that you want to be. There is nothing, no one stopping you from achieving anything, whatever is in your desire. The only impediment we now have is the government. If only you put in the work, only you roll up your sleeves, you can become all that you want to be. And that's all we want for any Australian. You know, I've donated 10 million meals for hungry Australians at Food Bank. Elbow has given them... Elbow's given them $1 million to provide food for 3.7 million households that are struggling to put food on the table each day. 10,000 people have been made homeless last month. Yet the government's donated $600 million of your money, of taxpayers' money, for an NRL team in New Guinea. We've got to get our priorities right. Our children matter, our families matter, our future matters. When you look at those people, it could be you tomorrow. And we've got to say, there for the grace of God goes I. That's it. It's the uniparty that's holding Australia back. It's the uniparty that will eventually crush. Our Australian Constitution has no greater purpose than to protect and defend our freedom and the nation's security. The Constitution must become the hallmark of freedom. And the Trumpet of Patriots will propose changes to the Constitution to ensure freedom forever for all Australians. Today, our country is in crisis. The Liberals and Labor are keeping Australians in the dark. The Liberals and Labor are just waiting until after the election to lock you down again, to destroy the Australian economic prosperity. When elected to government, the first matter on the agenda of Trumpet of Patriots will be an enactment of an Australian Bill of Rights. We want to outlaw lockdowns, protect the rights of all Australians to choose their medical treatment. and to preserve freedom, a freedom of speech. We know that governments never give back freedoms they take from the people. The people have to step forward and take them back. In wars all over the world, from the mud and blood of the trenches of the Western Front to the jungles of Southeast Asia, in the snow-capped mountains of Korea and the islands of the Pacific, past generations of Australians have sacrificed their lives to give us all the freedom we have. Freedom doesn't come from the government. When the Anzacs went overseas, they didn't go overseas as members of the Labor or Liberal parties. They went as Australians. We need to put the ideas of class warfare behind us and reunite the nation. We know the government silenced Australians who simply dared to ask questions, demand answers. The right to ask questions is fundamental to a free and open society, but under Liberals and the Labor, Australians have been denied this basic right. History shows us that segregation is an evil. After all, it's our country. It is the country of all Australians, not just some, but everyone. We don't need to be welcome to our own country, as I said before, lest we start to believe, as Tucker Carlson said, that it's not our country. We must reject authoritarianism, instead pursue more democratic and inclusive ideas. Recent history is full of examples of what an elected government can do when it becomes embroidered with too much power. Before I finish tonight, I want you all to remember that you're having dinner with me after this down here. We've got a whole lot of chefs that are really, really working hard for all of you people to eat tonight. And if you don't come down for dinner, they'll have nothing to do. So if you want to create employment in this country, when the things finish here, we'll just go to a press conference for half an hour. There'll be drinks and everything for you down there, and you can catch up with each other. So don't forget to come, because we want to see you. You know, governments love to use a crisis, whether real or imagined, when they seek to subvert the democratic process, because they tell people that it's for their safety or their protection. We know what the usual outcome is. The usual outcome is tyranny. And in 2025, shall we say the trumpet sounds again, right? Yes! To this new generation of Australians. It's a call to serve our nation. It's a call that we must answer. The call we must be answered at this election. Save Australia we must. Save Australia we will. The Trumpet of Patriots will save Australia and its independence. We must save Australia from the Liberal and Labor uniparty, that what they're planning to do to you after this election. How long can Parliament remain indifferent to the needs of Australians? How long can government be deaf to the everyday struggles of all Australians? On this small speck in the universe called planet Earth, we must do all we can to help each other. Our main concern needs to rest with how we can grow and expand our economy, lower our cost of living and create more wealth. Not for us, but for the community. Not wealth for the wealthy, but wealth for all, even for those who are the least among us. As a wise man said many years ago, injustice to a man anywhere is an injustice to all men everywhere. The ghosts of the Anzacs call us to action. To stimulate our economic activity, we must ignite the creativity and the productivity of all of our citizens. The nation needs a strong economy, efficient productions. Our citizens can live a prosperous and satisfying life. Government's not about business. It's about creating an environment to allow our economy to flourish, to sustain revenue of the nation, to provide income and security for all Australians. But in our country, confidence is low. The standard of living has declined, and we must use our resources better. We're not prisoners to the world economy, like Labor and the Coalition believe, helplessly adrift in a sea of despair. The Australian government is the main petitioner of bankruptcy and company liquidations in Australia. As a result, businesses close, employees lose their job, and the government then loses group tax, company tax, and in many cases, exports and GST. And our services decline in education, health, and we've got to do better. We will restructure the system to keep business going and growing, to keep people employed productively. The uniparty government of Labor and Liberals has transferred people's gainful employment to unemployment and guaranteed misery for our people. Our problems, as Ralph said, have been made by men, and women and can be solved by men and women. But endless borrowing of the Australian government and increased migration to put the day off is not a real solution for all Australians. It's time that Australia sets a national agenda for growth and a goal for all of us to follow. But in your hands, more than mine, rests the future of our great country. For too long have Australians lacked initiative and confidence and felt they cannot help themselves. The Liberal and Labor parties have provided no clear future. Trumpet of Patriots will change all that. Australians want to know what they can do, because the uniparty government they've experienced they've experienced a declining standard of living. They've experienced the loss of incentives with no activity and no growth. Our policies will create jobs, increase our exports and provide greater revenue and a rising rather than declining standard of living for all Australians. Higher exports and revenue means better education, health services and Australians across the breadth of our land. Australians want to know, you want to know, how are we going to achieve all this? Before I conclude my speech today, I want to express my gratitude to our leader, Suellen Wrightson. She's an incredible leader. And she has a strength of character and is leading this nation. I've left it to her to tell you how it's going to be done, because in my 72nd year I can't do too much, but she can. She's young, she's vital, she's intelligent, and she's a woman which is of an incredible strength and someone we can follow. I'm sure you've all seen a lot of her ads on TV. I'm sure those of you here earlier today saw some of that. And I was discussing during the week with our team of what we can do. What can we more do in the election? And you know, we've got the Prime Ministerial debates coming up on Channel 7, free to air on Channel 9. So immediately I booked 2 minutes immediately before it opens and 2 minutes immediately before it ends. And what the whole nation will see is the contrast of Suellen Wrightson and the two talking heads. It'll be wonderful, right? I don't think they'll like it too much, but you saw a preview when you came here earlier today. You may not have realised it, of what her speech will be. You know, when we first started the program today, we showed Suellen talking. There were 2 2-minute clips put there together. One will be played immediately before the program commences, and one immediately after it ends. So all of Australia will know the Trumpet of Patriots has the best leader in this election, and they'll know who to vote for. So I can't keep you in suspense any longer. It's hard to write a speech when you say nothing, but I've done it. But I've tried to inspire you a bit. But there's so many juicy bits coming up now that you'll just go absolutely berserk. And I can't give you too many heart attacks all at once. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our leader, Suellen Wrightson. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, leader of the Trumpet of Patriots, Suellen Wrightson.
what an awesome crowd. So very proud to be here and to be here for you and for our country. Men and women of Australia. Australia must move decisively to expand our exports. If we move decisively, our factories and our farms increase their sales to the richest and fastest growing markets in Asia. Our exports will increase, our balance of payments position will improve, and we will have forged across the Pacific and Indian Oceans trading partnerships with the vast resources of Asia and the Middle East. And I'm very proud to be spearheading your team of candidates across the country in the House of Representatives, complemented by outstanding candidates in the Senate to give Australians a real choice in the upcoming election. And I can assure you the Trumpet of Patriots will prevail. And now, more than ever, our country needs to stand up and push back against a government that is out of control and a law unto itself. Labor and the Coalition are slowly destroying our once thriving communities and worsening our lives. And Australia needs many of the policies of the Trump administration which will be effective in bringing Australia back on track. And Tucker's support, together with Elon Musk, played a key role in the election of US President Donald Trump. At the election on the 3rd of May, the Labor government will push net zero down our throats. And it's the renewable energy that means, subsidies for renewable energy means that money is being used to shut down coal-fired power plants and destroy our communities. $39 billion of subsidies has been spent by the Coalition and Labor of your money to prop up the renewable energy industry. $642 million of your money will be spent to get to net zero and keep Australians poor. And the mad rush to unreliable renewable energy increases the cost of living, increases the cost of power, and the destruction of environmental communities across the nation. And the Trumpet of Patriots will end all subsidies to the renewable energy, will withdraw from the Paris Accord, and will start supporting and we will support the coal industry and bring back coal-fired power plants into our grid. And net zero means zero coal mines, zero money, zero jobs for the resources sector. And I want to remind all Australians, it is the resources sector that props up our economy to pay for our roads, schools, hospitals and Medicare. And without it, our economy and our way of life is doomed. And the upcoming election will be the last chance for our community to save itself. It's a nonsense that Labor can properly represent our community while at the same time support net zero to close and destroy our communities and deprive our children of their future. And in a recent Telereach poll conducted in February and released to the media on the 26th of February, confirms that Australians actually support Trump policies and other policies which our party, the Trumpet of Patriots, will be presenting at this election. And across the country, there is a strong backing for common sense policies. A poll has showed that voters support our policy ideas, with many more of them still considering them. This poll sends a clear message. Australians want bold leadership. They want to reinvigorate our nation. And the Trumpet of Patriots is ready to deliver that, plus specific policies that will secure our future and put our country first. And one of the problems with Albanese and Dutton is that they spend most of their time attacking each other on the campaign trail. They actually overlook the Australian people. They don't provide real solutions or leadership to solve the serious issues facing Australia, such as the cost of living and housing. And democracy demands that elections should be a battle of ideas. The current government and the opposition seem to be devoid of ideas and solutions for the problems facing everyday Australians. And Australia does desperately need common sense solutions. And we also believe it's time to throw out the professional politicians in the Labor and Liberal parties. And it is indeed time to provide Australians with a real, genuine alternative at this election. Now, Peter Dutton has stated that he's no Donald Trump, and we absolutely agree with him. And Albanese has presided over a declining standard of living for our country in each and every year that he has served as Prime Minister. And Australia desperately needs new policies because we know Australians want them. And Australians don't need to be welcomed to our own country. We respect all Australians. And we believe that we don't need to be individually acknowledged by people that we don't know and that we have never met. We need to respect all people who have made Australia a wonderful country, and that includes the contribution made by people from every nation in the world. There is only one flag, an Australian flag, that represents all Australian citizens. And the Trumpet of Patriots absolutely seeks to unite all Australians under that flag. And Nelson Mandela rejected apartheid, and Dr. Martin Luther King fought separated development communities that were based on race. And they fought hard for equality, and that is what all Australians want, equality and inclusion. And we need to unite Australians under our national flag, representing our common values, because all Australians are equal under the Southern Cross. We believe that Labor and Liberal have abandoned the needs of mainstream Australia. And for over 20 years, Australian governments of all political persuasions have presented a misleading picture of our economy. They have consistently included the wealth of immigrants in their economic calculations, and this practice has allowed them to claim economic achievements and inflate figures of national wealth. But in reality, these governments have failed to genuinely improve the lives and wealth of the Australian people who elected them. And instead, they have overseen a decline in the standard of living for many, prioritising the interests of others. Too much immigration beyond Australia's capacity overwhelms our housing, infrastructure, roads, schools and hospitals. It creates congestion and the destruction of our communities. Australia should be for all Australians living here. Yes, sir. Come on. And in February alone, this year, Albanese issued 200,000 visas. Migration must be radically reduced to a sensible level that Australia can absorb, and the Trumpet of Patriots will cut immigration by 80%. Australian cultural values and the Australian way of life must be respected. New Australian citizens must be encouraged and actually be capable of integrating within our wider communities, and participating in the Australian way of life removes any misunderstandings. And listening is one of the most important things that we can do. By listening, we learn from others and we can make changes before change changes us. And without a doubt, as Australians, we must be putting the interests of our people first. As it's been said, we need an open mind, and this is called for by the better need for mutual understanding, mutual respect. An open mind will enable us to have an objective and realistic understanding of each other. An open mind will also enable us to be more appreciative, accommodative and supportive of each other's concerns and priorities. And the Trumpet of Patriots will unite Australia by putting forward ordinary people from all walks of life into our parliament. And I can tell you that too many people in Parliament are worried about losing their seat because they know they wouldn't actually get a job outside of Parliament. And I actually work in the Parliament. I've seen the quality of the people that are in charge of our country. They don't really dislike each other. Actually, they're quite friendly to each other. They agree on common policies, and that's why Australia hasn't had real democracy. That's why we've had a uni party for many years. And that's why we haven't brought the hard questions to government departments like Elon Musk is doing in Washington at the moment. And Elon Musk's team have uncovered nearly $5 trillion of waste. And the Trumpet of Patriots will cut the waste that exists in Canberra and reevaluate the policies of government to return to the Australian taxpayer value for their contributions. And the world is certainly changing. In the United States of America, government waste and corruption is finally being exposed. In Australia for too long, Australians have suffered from a duopoly of power by Labor and Liberal parties against the interest of Australians. It's either Tweedledee or Tweedledum. Yes. It's either dumb or dumber, or it's B1 and B2. Whatever it is, nothing ever really changes in Canberra, where the bureaucrats' rule is supreme, where the public sector gets bigger and bigger, and Australians' living standards get lower and lower. And the Trumpet of Patriots gives Australians a real choice and a real opportunity for change. We will establish an external entity empowered to review all government expenditure and priorities. And this is important because if we let the government conduct the review, it will be like the criminal investigating the crime. And the finding will be nothing to see here. We're good. And the Trumpet of Patriots policy is to recognise that there are two genders, male and female. We don't want men in women's sport, especially boxing. Australia will be hosting the Olympics in 2032 in Queensland, in this amazing state. And why is it okay for a young girl to train for years to achieve Olympic selection to represent Australia, only to have her dream shattered when she potentially competes against a biological man for a gold medal who has distinct biological advantages? And we believe that all children should be entitled to a normal, safe environment in our schools. All children must be entitled to decide who they are and what their sexual orientation is when they become adults, not to have it forced upon them. not to have it forced upon them before they've even commenced puberty. And right now, the Labor government is considering a proposal by the Australian Society of Plastic Surgeons to have elective gender surgery or trans healthcare covered by Medicare. This is essentially cosmetic surgeries to change a person's sexual morphology on an elective basis. The financial implications of this would run into the millions and cannot be quantified given that future legal action that will undoubtedly arise around informed consent. And importantly, if taxpayers end up funding this type of surgery, what other areas of Medicare or medical care do we cut? Do we cut funding to life-saving cancer treatments? Do we cut funding to doctors and nurse practitioners working in remote and rural Australia? This is what you can expect from a Labor government that has absolutely lost the plot. That's right. And decisions in respect of gender issues need to be made by a person when they are adults. In the meantime, parents should not be excluded from any problem that their child may be experiencing. And while Labor and Liberal are for they, them, Trumpet of Patriots are for you. And one of the most pressing needs for Australia since Federation has been the need for capital to develop the country. Australia has always been an importer of capital, and that's why foreign investment has been so important. In the first decade of this century, Australia looked to China to provide investment in the form of equity and loans to Australian companies. And that experiment has compromised our economy and our national security. Yet today, Australia has the second largest superannuation funds in the world, with nearly $5 trillion of funds. And the Australian government encourages contributions to super by setting a lower tax regime for all Australians to make contributions to those funds. Now, because the Australian government is charging a lower taxation on super fund contributions, those funds should be invested here to stimulate our economy. To create the jobs that we desperately need here in Australia, not in Europe, not in Asia, and not in the United States. But where do those locked up funds invest? At the moment, mainly in Europe, the US and Asia. As Australia is providing tax incentives and discounted tax rates for those contributions, it's only reasonable that those funds should be deployed in our country to provide venture capital, infrastructure and industrial investments and to create opportunity. And things are so bad that the Labor government, through the notorious Kevin Rudd, held forums and meetings in Washington for the purpose of introducing Australian superannuation fund managers to investments in the United States of America. This occurred instead of requiring those fund managers to invest within our country, within Australia. And the government has provided tax incentives to raise capital from Australians for super funds, yet they did not mandate that this capital be invested domestically, either in full or in part. And the availability of capital in this country protects our security, it reinvigorates our economy. It would create jobs here and valuable exports from Australia. And as a result of this, we believe it's time to bring Kevin Rudd back home from Washington. There are not too many ambassadors in Washington that have insulted the President of the United States. Kevin Rudd ranks alone in that, and Australia needs an effective representative in Washington that can support our nation in its time of toil, in a time where our living standards are declining, and in a time when Australians are going hungry. And likewise, our Prime Minister has insulted the President on more than one occasion and has not apologised for the unprovoked public attacks. And Australia has an abundance of resources. Rather than use them to manufacture end products, we export them when we could be making 20 times the amount of money by processing them here in Australia rather than in Asia using our own capital. And wages in Japan are higher than Australia, yet Japan has become one of the world's major economies and exporters based on Australian resources and Australian energy. If we redirect our capital and invest in processing our own resources, we can make Australia great again. And the simple reason the cost of living is so high is because Australians are being ripped off by the political system and the lobbyists that support it. We can bring down the cost of living by bringing down the cost of energy. By bringing down the cost of energy, the cost of capital and the cost of housing. And the Trumpet of Patriots policy is to lift the nuclear energy ban. There is no reason why the government continues to spend billions in taxpayer funds on renewable energy and continues to ban nuclear power. And we don't want the government to fund nuclear power because anything the government does costs 5 times the amount and takes far longer to build. If nuclear power is to be developed in Australia, it should be by industry and not by the government. And we know that net zero means zero in your pocket. Net zero means zero on the dinner table and an exploding cost of living. And because of increases in the cost of living and 3 years of declining living standards, there are now more than 3.7 million households that don't have enough food. They can't afford it because of the cost of living that the Labor Party have brought upon all of us, because of the excess spending and the waste of taxpayer funds, because of the Uni Party's lack of leadership and ideas. We find Australian children are going to bed hungry at night. Ask the chairman of Food Bank, ask the people out there on the front lines what the real situation is. And the Trumpet of Patriots chairman, Clive Palmer, donated $5 million to Food Bank recently. It was enough to provide Australians with 10 million meals. And the Australian government provides Food Bank with $1 million per year. Yet it gives Papua New Guinea $600 million to have a rugby league team in the NRL. And the Trumpet of Patriots believes that our children and our families are more important than a foreign football team. When we know that 3.7 million households in this country are experiencing hardship in feeding their families, this is an absolute disgrace. The Trumpet of Patriots, when elected, will ensure that Australians do not go to bed hungry at night. Come on. And the priorities of the Uni Party are clearly not for Australians. Only the Trumpet of Patriots will put Australians first. Come on. Both Liberal and the Labor parties have the same policies. For example, they both have multi-gender policies. They both offer the same funding for Medicare, but that funding will not be paid until 2030. So don't get sick over the next 5 years. Yes. They both will not increase the cost of excise on beer. I think it's more important to have a solution to the housing crisis than not to have an increase in the excise on beer. And at this election, the Trumpet of Patriots will put the Uni Party sitting member, be that Labor or Liberal, last in their own seat and set a new agenda for this nation. The only difference they have in policy is that Peter Dutton wants to establish nuclear power with taxpayers' money, and Labor opposes any form of nuclear power and instead wants to continue subsidising expensive renewable energy with your tax dollars because they truly believe that the globe is boiling. It is climate hysteria driven by the Labor Party that has caused an energy crisis in our country. And it is the direct cause of the horrendous cost of living crisis crippling families across Australia. And the simple fact is, there has never been a time where the climate didn't change. In truth, the truth is, global temperatures have risen and fallen over the last 10,000 years. This is not in dispute. And we know this because Jorgen Stephenson from the Niels Bohr Institute, University of Copenhagen, gave us the evidence. Scientific experts have physical evidentiary proof of historical climate record, such as ice core samples that give an extremely accurate record of the Earth's climate way back in time. And in 1997, there was a pioneering venture known as the Greenland Ice Core Project that took ice core samples from a 3-kilometre deep ice sheet, containing evidence of the history of the climate on Earth and an irrefutable evidentiary record of the temperature of the Earth over a given period in time. And the Greenland Ice Core Project reconstructed those temperatures over the last 10,000 years. Between 4,000 and 8,000 years ago, the average temperature was actually 2.5 degrees warmer than it is today. That's right, it was actually hotter on Earth back then compared to now. And in the Viking Age, temperatures were 1.5 degrees warmer than today. In 1875, the lowest temperatures in the last 8,000 years were recorded, and that coincided with a time when meteorological observations first began. And the undeniable fact, as proven by ice core samples, is that global boiling has not been caused by humans. Why are we destroying our environment with wind turbines that operate intermittently, that kill wild birds? Why are we installing solar farms that ignite bushfires? Why are we destroying our prime agricultural land in order to meet a Paris climate agreement? I think that the Trumpet of Patriots believes that we should think about feeding ourselves first. That's the most important thing. And renewable energy is a financially unviable, intermittent technology that's driving up power bills and draining our tax dollars in the form of subsidies. We can have an abundance of cheap, reliable nuclear energy. We have 2/3 of the world's uranium reserves right here in Australia. And the Trumpet of Patriots wants industry at their cost, not yours, to be free to develop nuclear power. Let the market determine the best and lowest cost energy for Australia and, as a result, bring down our cost of living. And we can solve the housing crisis by establishing a fast train rail tracks from our capital cities, 120 kilometres in length, to open up affordable land for housing with a 20-minute commute to the CBD. Not only will this solution alleviate traffic and congestion in our cities, it will give Australians the opportunity to own their homes at a price that they can afford and make a major contribution to bringing down the cost of living. Come on. And the law needs to be changed to give all Australians the right to access their superannuation for a deposit for a home, up to 30% of the value of that home. We must support Australians through the trials and tribulations of life and allow them to access their own money and own a home that they can live in. This measure will allow millions of Australians to participate in the housing market and to reduce the demand and cost for rental accommodation, and is the key to reducing homelessness and poverty in Australia. And importantly, we can use Australia's balance sheet and financial rating to put a 3% cap on interest rates to stop Australians losing their homes and becoming homeless. The US government has long done this with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, with longer-term capped interest rates, because they recognise the importance of home ownership for a stable community. And 120,000 Australians are now homeless because of the declining living standards and increased cost of living imposed upon us by the uni party of Labor and the Coalition. And we want to make sure that the Australian government does what is best for all Australians. Australia is the key player in the world when it comes to iron ore. In 2016, China decided not to sign the Paris Climate Agreement because they stated that they were a developing nation. China agreed, however, to commence reducing its emissions by 2030. And less than a decade later, China has become a manufacturing superpower on the back of Australian iron ore, and its economy is one of the largest in the world. China has continued to build new coal-fired power stations and turbocharged its manufacturing capability via new nuclear power stations. And we need to play to our strengths by placing a 15% licence fee on all iron ore exports from Australia. We can eliminate the government's debt over time and free Australia to be all that it can be. In the coming election campaign, it's an opportunity for all Australians to join a party that only has the interests of all Australians at its heart. The Trumpet of Patriots believes in many of the same policies as Donald Trump in the US. We need common sense solutions. We need to refocus on what really matters to the people. And Japan has become the world's third largest economy by processing Australian resources. Wages in Japan are higher. The cost of energy is actually more expensive, and Japan suffers from the tyranny of distance. Yet, Australia sells its mineral ores at $40 to $200 a tonne, and Japan sells the final product at $20,000 a tonne or more. And to create jobs and generate more government revenue, along with a stronger balance of payments, the Australian government needs to encourage the use of the mineral resources wealth of Western Australia and Queensland to support downstream manufacturing in the states and territories that don't have those resources, such as New South Wales, South Australia, Tasmania and Victoria. And this will create jobs. It will increase our exports and provide greater revenue and a rising rather than declining standard of living for all Australians. Higher export revenue means better education and health services for our people. And regional Australia is the forgotten Australia by all political parties, as are Tasmania and the Northern Territory. We need to support regional Australia by the reintroduction of a zonal taxation system. This will provide an incentive to decentralise Australia and maximise the delivery of services to regional Australia. It will provide the incentive regional areas need to ensure that regional hospitals have doctors and that regional industries develop for the benefit of their communities and for all Australia. And we have to end the discrimination against rural industries and give them the means to compete internationally. The Australian government needs to support Australian industries and ensure that all of its policies are for Australia first. And we must encourage Australians to buy Australian produce. And the labelling and packaging regime needs to be changed so that Australians know clearly what products are Australian. If the product contained in any package or container is not at least 95% Australian product, then it will not have a green and gold classification and labelled as Australian. Anything less should have a red label and be marked as foreign. And the Trumpet of Patriots believes 25% of the wealth generated from the regions in Australia must be returned to that region so that the wealth can be reinvested in the region that generated the wealth in the first place. And we need to provide more funding for education in Australia. A free nation can rise no higher than the standard of excellence set in the schools and the colleges. Ignorance and illiteracy, unskilled workers and school dropouts are failures of our education system in the past and bred failures in our social and economic systems, delinquency, unemployment and chronic dependency. This is a waste of our human resources, a loss of productive power and purchasing power, and an increase in tax-supported benefits. The loss of only 1 year's income due to unemployment is more than the total cost of 12 years of education through high school. Failure to improve education performance is not only poor social policy, it's poor economics. At the start of the last century, only 10% of our adults had a high school or university education. Today, such education has become a requirement for an increasing number of jobs. If we double the fees for foreign students, we can make all Australians tertiary education free. And it is also our plan to forgive all student loans. The security of our nation is of paramount importance. Our armed forces' prime responsibility must be to protect Australia and to be a reliable ally. We need a stable world to expand our exports and to be a reliable member of the international community. Our most important trading partners and our main allies must know that they can count on Australia. Our defence forces need to rearm and redeploy and be the best and use the best technology to meet Australia's defence needs. Our Army, Navy and Air Force personnel are Australians and valuable members of our society. We cannot take their service to this nation and disregard them as Labor and Liberal, the Uni Party, have done for the past 20 years. And the Trumpet of Patriots will introduce retrospectively the linking of all service pensions to the male total average earnings. The Trumpet of Patriots will expand all gold card benefits to all servicemen and women. Gold card benefits will be automatically delivered to the spouses of all servicemen and women for the term of their life. The Trumpet of Patriots will have a minister solely responsible for Veterans Affairs. And the Trumpet of Patriots believes that lobbyists should be excluded from holding official positions within political parties. Lobbyist firms often employ former ministers from both political parties, and big business can get policy changes by paying money to such firms to represent their views. This represents a serious conflict of interest and undermines the value of individual members' voting rights and the democracy that Australians have fought so hard for. And lobbying, mixed with political parties, undermines Australia's right to vote. The Trumpet of Patriots team will legislate to restrict the role of lobbyists in directing political parties. 95% of Australians agree on all issues. Labor and the Liberals spend 100% of their time arguing about 5% of the things that Australians disagree on, causing divisions when Australia needs unity, causing disruptions to our industries when we need a joint effort. And as a great man once said, in the final analysis, we are all mortal. We all live on this one small planet. We all breathe the same air, and we all want a good future for our children. And when the Anzacs went overseas, they didn't go overseas as members of the Liberal Party or members of the Labor Party. They went as Australians. And we need to put the idea of class war behind us and unite our nation. I have a strong commitment to Australia, to raise the issues facing our great country, to stand with our party members at this important time in our nation's history is an absolutely great honour. If you're happy with all that has been done up until now, if it's sufficient for you and your family, you should vote again for the Albanese Uni Party. But if you believe, as I do, that this nation has the strength and the potential to live out its heritage and to fulfil the dreams of the Anzacs, to return Australia to being the lucky country it should be, you must give the Trumpet of Patriots your support. We intend to lead this nation together, because then Australia will prevail. And we are also determined to reform the political process in this country to protect and defend democracy. We will change the face of our economy. We will bring back prosperity and the Australian way of life for all Australians. And Australia must do much more than we have done so far. We must expand our economy and grow the nation that we love, to be able to stand on our own 2 feet again and to have supply chain resilience. The government should give everyone support to have an agenda of common sense policies, growth and enterprise for our nation. And Australia has the strength and potential to live out its heritage and to fulfil the dreams of the Anzacs, to turn Australia back into the lucky country, to restore our economy and to reclaim our national heritage. Many people say that they care, but they really do not. And Parliament should be about the needs of Australians, but sometimes it's not. It's our responsibility to be the last sentry at the gate, to protect the rights and freedoms of all Australians, regardless of the party that they belong to. Australia needs a revolution in the way that we think and in the way that we boost our wealth and our economy for the benefit of all of our citizens. We have to re-establish confidence, and we need to believe that we can lift our economy to a better future. We need to have a positive attitude. We may not get there, but nothing is surer than if we fail, that we will fail, if we do not project a positive agenda for the nation in a positive manner. Public service and political life must be the highest calling. The catch cry must be respect for ideas, because great debate demands its victim and truth is the only winner. We are all winners when the truth prevails over injustices. The content of our individual characters is more important than our bank balances. And we need to ensure the incorruptibility of our public officials and value the integrity of our marriages and worth of our people. It is ideas that matter. Governments may come and go, but ideas go on forever. It is the ideas that will shape this nation. It is the ideas that will endure through time. It is the ideas that capture the conscience of the nation. It is ideas that endure when all else is gone. And we can solve our debt problem by having a 15% licence fee on iron ore exports. We can turbocharge our economy by bringing back Australia trillions of dollars in super. We can solve the housing crisis with a 3% loan cap and fast rail. And we can bring down the cost of living. We must feed hungry Australians. So let us unite to serve the nation that we love, to discover the future, to share our trials and tribulations, to overcome adversity, to pull together for the common good under the Southern Cross, and to know, as a great man once said, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking his blessing and his help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.
Again. Thank you, everybody.
We're off to press conferences to start fighting the bastards. So we're doing that. You're all invited to go down to the dinner tonight, which is down there on the driving range. I think you'll see the signs, and we'll see you there and have a drink. God bless you.